There's a process which has made more people rich than any other single process of goal achieving. And it's to take your major goal and structure it as a question. If your goal is to earn $100,000 a year, then you write, how can I earn $100,000 in the next 12 months? Now, that's an open-ended question, not how can I earn it at my job or doing a specific thing, just an open-ended question. How can I earn the amount of money? And then you discipline yourself to write 20 answers to the question. And the 20 answers are all the different things that you could think of to earn $100,000. Work longer, work harder, upgrade my skills, just get a new job, take a part-time opportunity, whatever it happens to be, write down everything you could think of, but force yourself to write at least 20 questions or 20 answers to the question. The 20-question method, called mindstorming, forces you to dig deep, deep into your mind where you will find all your answers. And it may be call a person, read a book. Let me give you an example. We had a young fellow entrepreneur, he got 35 years old. He'd built a successful business. He'd worked about 10 years to do it. And he, for 2 years, wanted to sell his business so he could take a year off and travel, enjoy his money. And so for 2 years, he just sort of floundered around like a fish on the dock, wanting to sell his business. Nobody offered to buy it. He suggested it to people. People were not interested, and so on. And in this exercise that they put him through, his 20th answer, and often it's the 20th answer that is the breakthrough, was buy a book on how to sell your own business. And it just went off like a flashbulb in his mind. At the break, he got up. It was a downtown hotel. Got up, went down to the street to a major bookstore, went and found, he was amazed at the number of books that had been written on how to buy and sell a business. So he bought 2 or 3 books. 2 months later, he had restructured, packaged his business, sold it completely, satisfactorily, and took a year off. He said, but it was just a single idea. It was a breakthrough idea, but it was so simple. Just get a book on the subject. And you think, boy, that's pretty obvious, yes? But it's the most obvious answers that we overlook.
Well, what I teach is the importance of goal setting very clear goals, making plans to achieve the goals, and then working on those goals each day. Because when you are working toward a goal, your self-confidence goes up, your energy goes up, and you actually become more intelligent. So this feeling of forward movement is one of the most important success secrets in the world. Successful people are always moving towards something important to them, and the feeling of movement makes them happy. It releases endorphins in your brain, which cause you to be more creative, more positive, stronger, and more powerful. So why is it then that most people have no goals? If you can earn 10 times as much with goals, and if you can have 10 times as much success with goals, why don't people all have goals? Here are 5 myths about setting goals and objectives that might stop you from reaching what you want. The first one is, I already have goals. I don't need to set any. People who say this also say that their goals are, want to be rich. I want to be thin. I want to be thin. I want to be happy. I want to be successful. I want to be popular, and I want to live my dreams. But these are not goals. These are wishes and fantasies common to all mankind. Crazy people and homeless people have these as goals. They're not goals. They're just fantasies. Sometimes they're just delusions. A goal, on the other hand, is like a beautiful home, carefully designed and continually upgraded. It's regularly worked on and constantly improved. If it's not in writing, it's merely a dream or a wish. We say that a goal that is not in writing is a wish with no energy behind it. It has no power in your life. It's just a vague objective that comes in and out of your life, sort of like a sunrise and a sunset, without ever accomplishing anything. The second most common misconception that people have about not setting goals is, I don't need goals. I'm doing fine. Living your life without goals and objectives is like setting off across an unknown country with no road signs and no roadmap. You have no choice but to make it up as you go along, reacting and responding to whatever happens all day, all week, all month, and then just hoping for the best. If you are doing well today without written goals and plans, wow, it means you could probably be doing many times better in the future if you had clear targets to aim at and the ability to measure your progress as you go along. It's vital to have goals in every part of your life. Myth number 3 about goal setting is, I don't need written goals. I have them all in my mind. Now, the average stream of consciousness includes about 1,500 thoughts or words a minute that race through your mind like a river. If your goals are only in your mind, they're invariably jumbled up, vague, confused, contradictory, and deficient in many ways. If your goals are just tumbling around in your mind, they offer no clarity, and they give you no motive power. You become like a ship without a rudder, drifting with the tides, crashing into the rocks, and eventually, you'll never realize your full potential. The fourth most common myth is, I don't know how to set goals. Well, no wonder. You can take a master's degree at a leading university and never receive a single hour of instruction on goal setting and goal achieving. But fortunately, setting a goal is a skill like time management, teaching, selling, managing, or even riding a bicycle. Anything else that you need to become a highly productive person. And all skills are learnable. This was the great turning point in my life. All essential skills are learnable. Everybody who can do it today at one time could not do it today at one time, could not do it at all. And what others have learned, you can learn as well. You can learn the skill of goal setting through practice and repetition until it becomes as easy and as automatic as breathing in and breathing out. And from the very first day that you begin setting goals, the progress you will make and the successes you'll enjoy will absolutely astonish you. Now, the final myth that people use not to set goals is goals don't work. Life is too unpredictable. Well, here's an analogy. When a plane takes off for a distant city, it will be off course 99 of the time. The complexity of the avionics and the skill of the pilots are focused on continual course corrections. Now, it's the same in life. But when you have a clear, long-term goal with specific plans to achieve it, you may have to change course many times, but you will eventually arrive at your destination of health, wealth, and great success. You have two choices in life. You can either work on your own goals, or you can work for someone else and work on achieving their goals. When you learn how to set goals for yourself, you take complete control of your life and jump to the front of the line in your potential for great achievement. A road will get you there, and as Wayne Gretzky said, you miss every shot you don't take. The very act of taking the time to decide what you really want in each area of your life can change your life completely. The 3% factor is a phenomenon where only 3% of adults have written goals and plans, yet this 3% earns more than all of the other 97% put together. Why is this? The simplest answer is that if you have a clear goal and a plan to achieve it, you have a track to run on every single day, instead of being sidetracked by distractions and diversions. More and more of your time becomes focused in a straight line from where you are to where you want to go. This is why people with goals accomplish so much more than people without them. The tragedy is that most people think that they already have goals, but what they really have are hopes and wishes. However, hope is not a strategy for success, and a wish has been defined as a goal with no energy behind it. Goals that are not written down and developed into plans are like bullets without powder in the cartridge. People with unwritten goals go through life shooting blanks because they think they already have goals and never engage in the hard, disciplined effort of goal setting.
So, the 7-step goal setting process. Number 1, decide exactly what you want. Be specific. This is really important. I love this. Decide exactly what you want and be specific. It has to be so clear a child could understand it. Second of all, write it down and make it measurable. A goal that is not in writing is not a goal at all. In fact, if you were just to do number 1, number 2, and number 3, set a deadline and set sub-deadlines if necessary. Basic rule is that there are no unrealistic goals, there are merely unrealistic timelines, unrealistic deadlines. So if you set a goal and you don't achieve it by the deadline, what do? Set another deadline, just move it back. Obviously, you misjudged. Remember, it's just a guesstimate of when you can achieve the goal. However, with a deadline, half the time you'll achieve it before the deadline. Always when I write down a goal, which I do every day, I say I achieved this goal by this date. So in other words, it's achieved anywhere between now and then. I don't say at the date, but by this date or before this date. But by is my favorite word. I achieve it by June 30th, 2011. I achieve it by December 31st, 2011. Achieve this goal by. And if all you did was this, decide what you want, write it down, and set a deadline, it would change your life forever. I've had people who've just staggered at the difference it made in their lives to write these goals down and just set a deadline on them. But that's not enough. Number 4 is determine the obstacles that you'll have to overcome to achieve the goal. Remember, the question that we ask is, why aren't you already at the goal? If you want to earn twice as much, why aren't you already earning twice as much? What's the reason? What's holding you back? What's the constraint or the obstacle that's stopping you? Now, in 80% of cases, the 80-20 rule applies here. In 80% of cases, the obstacles between you and your goals are inside you. They're internal. They're not on the outside. So the mark of the superior person when they have a problem is they always say, what is it in me that's holding me back? What is it in me that's holding me back? Is it a lack of discipline, lack of time management, lack of a skill, lack of the ability to perform a particular area? What is it in me that's holding me back? And when you start with yourself, 80% of the time you'll say, well, this is my great problem. I have a book called Eat That Frog, which goes 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get things done faster. It's based on 30 years of research into time management condensed into a little book. How many people have read that book? It's a good book. It's a life. It transforms people's lives because the number one obstacle in many cases is procrastination, and it shows you how to develop the habit of getting on with it and starting your most important task and just getting it done. And when you get into the habit of determining your most important task and then just doing it, your whole life explodes. Because after that, you start to get everything done. And you start to get more and more done. And not only that, you feel happy. As you do important tasks, you feel happy, your self-esteem goes up, you have more energy, your self-confidence goes up, you're motivated to do more things. So one little problem, procrastinate. People say, well, it's procrastination is what holds me back. It's taking the first step. Well, if you can overcome that, which is a learnable skill, you learn to procrastinate, by the way, by default. So what you do is you say, well, I'm going to overcome procrastination. And don't say, I'm going to do it tomorrow or next week. I'm going to take a year. And by the end of the year, I'm going to be one of the best time managers and result getters in the world. Just give yourself a year and work on it every day. And I can promise you 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now, you're going to be a production powerhouse. You're going to be the most productive person in your industry. You're going to be getting so much done that people have just come around with cameras just to photograph you working. So determine the obstacles. Now, the next is determine the additional knowledge and skills that you will require. And remember, to achieve a goal that you've never achieved before, you will have to develop skills that you've never had before. You'll have to do things that you've never done before. So what are they? And here's the great breakthrough thought that changed my life at the age of 23, is that all business skills are learnable. You can learn any skill you need to learn, whether it's prospecting, presenting, closing, hiring, borrowing money, building businesses, marketing. You can learn any skill you need to learn. They're all just learnable skills. They're just laying there. Now, can you learn them in a week or a month? Not unless you're, a quick buck seeker. But can you learn them? Yes, you can learn anything. Can you learn to type? Yes, but not in one lesson. You have to type, and Mavis says, type 30 minutes every day. Take one lesson a day for 30 minutes every day. So I did. And in 90 days, you touch typing, and your whole world of access to all the information in the world has changed.
Number 1, decide exactly what you want in every key area of your life. This will immediately set you apart from 80 or 90% of the population. The most important word that I have found in success is clarity. Clarity, clarity. Successful people are very clear about what they want. And here's an interesting discovery. The greater clarity you have, the faster you draw into your life the resources necessary to achieve it. So in determining what you want, there's an activity that I teach to the senior executives of billion-dollar corporations, and it's called idealization. So you start off by idealizing your perfect life. You imagine that there are no limitations on what you can do or be or have. Imagine that you have all the time and all the money. You have all the friends and all the contacts, all the education and all the experience that you need to accomplish any goal that you could set for yourself. Imagine that you could wave a magic wand and make your life perfect in each of the 4 key areas of life. If your life was perfect in every area, what would it look like? Now here's the point before we go into the 4 areas. The fear of not achieving your goal, what we call self-limiting beliefs, hold you back more than anything else. and your self-limiting beliefs are not based on reality. That's why you have to constantly think, if I had no limitations, what goals would I set for myself? Now, in goal setting, the next stage, number 2, is to write it down. Remember we talked about clarity? Francis Bacon once says that writing maketh an exact man. Is when you write your goals down clearly, they take on a power of their own in your mind. You pull them out of the air where they have no substance at all, and you write them down on paper, and now you have something you can touch. Your goals must be in writing. Many people say, oh, I know exactly what I want. And I've met and worked with these people over the years, and you know something? They're almost all failures. They say, oh, I know what I want. I don't have to write it down. Yes, you do, because until you start writing, we find that there's an incredible connection between the head and the hand. And when you start to write goals, you'll be absolutely astonished what comes out on the paper. And when you write a goal down, you engage in what is called a psychoneuromotor activity. You activate your visual powers, your audio powers, and your kinesthetic powers. And whatever you write down, you actually program straight into your subconscious mind, where it starts to work 24 hours a day. Great stuff, let me tell you. Now, your goals must be clear, specific, detailed, and measurable. You must write out your goals as if you were placing an order for your goal to be manufactured in a factory at a great distance. And what they would do is they would create your goal, your order, and send it to you exactly as you wrote it down. Albert Einstein said that your goal must be so clear that a 6-year-old child could understand it clearly and explain it to another 6-year-old child and be able to tell you if you had achieved your goal or how close you were. This is why you never say, well, my goal is to be happy, and my goal is to be rich, and my goal is to be popular and meet the right person. These are not goals. These are fantasies. They are wishes. Even crazy people have these wishes. A goal is something that is written down and specific and clear. And your most important goal must be measurable so you know exactly where you are relative to the goal. Now, only 3% of adults have written goals worldwide, and everybody else works for them. In fact, the studies done at Yale and Harvard proved over a 20-30 year period that people with written goals ended up earning and having a net worth 10 times greater than people without goals, holding constant for intelligence, grades, graduation from courses, industries, marital status, and parts of the country. The people who started with goals were 10 times more likely to be successful and were worth 10 times more than the others in the course of a few years. Goal setting is really great. Now, number 3, set a deadline. Set a deadline, and then if necessary, set sub-deadlines on your goal. For example, if you set a 12-month goal to double your income, then you break it down into 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, and then 2 months, 1 month. And then if you're really smart, week by week by week, and some people even break their goals down into daily activities. If it's a 20-year goal, break it down into 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 3 months, and then 1 month. The more you break your goal down, the more likely it is you will achieve it. And then you complete your big goal one step at a time. Now, your subconscious mind uses deadlines as forcing systems. They drive you consciously and unconsciously toward achieving your goal on schedule. Anais Nin once said that your subconscious can work against you because when you set a big goal, you're disrupting your subconscious. So your subconscious mind will tell you that it's not possible and will attempt to sabotage you. And you know the way your subconscious mind sabotages you? It tells you, you can't achieve this goal. You don't need to write it down. It's okay as long as you know what it is. Because of the fear of failure, what you do is you don't write the goal down, and that way you can't fail. Isn't that clever? And people say, well, if you don't expect anything good, you'll never be disappointed. And these people have no future. You write it down as if by writing it down, it was guaranteed to you. And in many cases, it will be if you write it down. If your goal is big enough, set sub-deadlines. If you want to achieve financial independence, you may set a 10 or 20-year goal and then break it down year by year so that you know how much you have to save and invest each year. If for some reason you don't achieve your goal by the deadline, simply set a new deadline. There are no unreasonable goals, only unreasonable deadlines. And other things can happen that you hadn't expected that will put your deadlines off. Don't worry about it. Just set a new deadline and go back to work. Now, the fourth key in the 12-step method is to identify the obstacles that you'll have to overcome to achieve your goal. You see, between you and any goal that you want to accomplish, there are obstacles. There's something that's holding you back, or you'd already be there. So always ask this question: why aren't you already at your goal? Sometimes I ask people, would you like to double your income? And they say, of course. I said, well, why isn't your income already twice as high? You've been working for years and years. You're smart, you're talented, you're surrounded with opportunities. Some people that you know are earning twice as much as you. Why aren't you? And you know what happens is the first thing you think of are your favorite excuses. Oh, I'm so busy, or I didn't finish high school, or I didn't go to college, or I'm working in the wrong industry. You know, these are just excuses. They're not true, but they're ways that you step on your own brakes and hold yourself back. Now, there's a very powerful principle called the principle of constraints. This principle of constraints is, I think, revolutionary. And what it says is that there's always one limiting factor or constraint or bottleneck between you and your goal that sets the speed at which you achieve your goal. So the question is, once you're clear about your goal, and let's say it's a financial goal, is what is the bottleneck that holds you back? For example, I will say to a company, what is your goal? Well, it's to grow in sales and profitability. What's the constraint? More sales. If you had more sales, would you achieve the goal? Yes. So what is the constraint behind that? Better trained salespeople. Maybe it's better products and services. Maybe it's better pricing. Maybe it's new markets. But keep asking, what's holding you back? What sets the speed? Now, the 80-20 rule applies to constraints. Fully 80% of the reasons that are holding you back from achieving your goal are inside yourself. They're not on the outside. Average people always blame their problems on external circumstances. Top people look inside themselves. The things that are holding you back are usually the lack of a skill, the lack of a quality like self-discipline, or the lack of a particular knowledge or skill, all of which you can learn or acquire. Only 20% of the reasons you are not achieving your goals are on the outside, so always start with yourself.